Structure Deck Fire King. You're kidding me. That's the name? That's the actual name of the product that they're selling to the public. Jesus Christ, wow. Okay, so Structure Deck Fire Kings releases on December 8th. I'm sorry, it just sounds like what someone who heard Fire King was getting a Structure Deck 3 months ago and then forgot about it would call it. There's nothing here. It's the Washington football team of product names. Do you guys think they're losing their touch? Or do they just not care anymore? It's not even just an OCG TCG thing. The OCG equivalent has exactly the same name as the original Fire King Structure Deck. All they did was stick an R in there. At this point, who's stopping them from making a box just called Yu-Gi-Oh cards? Well, anyway, these cards are actually good, so I better get on with it. Let's break it down. Legendary Fire King Ponix is a level 1 fire that summons itself from hand if your fire monster is destroyed, searches a Fire King back row on summon, and returns to the hand during the next standby phase after being destroyed. Also, and this is completely, verifiably factual, Ponix sounds a little bit like penis. Bet you didn't think about that one, did you? That's the bandit difference right there. Rangbali summons itself if your face-up Fire King is destroyed, and can negate a spell or trap by popping a fire from hand or field. Fire King High Avatar Kirin can quick effect pop a fire from hand or field to summon himself, and when he's destroyed can summon a Fire King from hand or graveyard, then pop a card on the field. Sacred Fire King Garunix summons itself from hand or graveyard if your fire monster is destroyed, and on summon pops a fire tri-type from hand, deck, or field, and gains half its attack.
My sanctuary.
Places island from deck on activation, protects your field spells by popping a fire from hand or field instead, and when your opponent's special summons, can Xyz summon a fire monster using Fire Kings you control. Skyburn pops an equal number of Fire King monsters you control and cards your opponent controls, and Balinx is for Fire King cards. Echelon Trident launches a fire of each tri-type, and can banish itself from graveyard to make the summon window of all your Fire Kings unrespondable for the turn. And Garunix Eternity Hyang of the Fire Kings destroys all other monsters on the field on summon, can detach a material to pop a back row and gain 500, and if it's destroyed, floats into Fire King monsters from graveyard up to the number of materials it had. Phew, feels nice to be able to knock out all the new cards in like 2 minutes tops. So refreshing after having to describe what every single Valmonica card does last month. Lots to like about these cards. While it must be acknowledged that the deck has almost completed its Ship of Theseus metamorphosis, stay strong, Barong. The new support modernizes Fire King to a point where it can actually compete in a post-TikTok world. Now equipped with some forms of interaction that are stronger and more consistent than Arvada Pass, Fire King has some serious potential in the modern metagame. By starting from just Ponix, you can get Sanctuary and Island, pop the Ponix to grab Garunix, then summon the Garunix and pop Barong from deck. Barong and Ponix will trigger during your opponent's standby phase, bringing Kirin and a fire to pop for its effect to your hand, all in service of Sanctuary's ability to overlay Kirin and Garunix into Garunix Eternity and wipe the board while your opponent is trying to play. Ponix being the deck starter is great news because as a level 1 fire you can find it with the Sinful Spoils engine. This engine gets even stronger come Phantom Nightmare, but we try to stay focused on the present on this channel. Alongside Eternity's board wipe, the deck can also access interactions in the form of Arvada and Rangbali's negates. Sometimes this requires sparing the normal for them, but they can also hit the board through Eternity's float effect, which will even bring back fodder for them to pop. And Rangbali does have the effect to summon himself if you pop one of your monsters, but be wary of the hand trigger ruling that will make you pick between him or Sacred Garunix. Since you can only trigger one in a chain, try not to accidentally block yourself from your actual game plan just to summon a spell negate. There's also Skyburn, which you can search with Ponix if you already have Sanctuary, and like Eternity is both a great disruption to set up going first and a great board breaker going second. You can expand on the deck's extra deck capabilities by using original Sinful Spoils to summon Snake Eye Ash before grabbing Ponix, giving you the extra board presence to end on things like IP, Sunlight Wolf, or Heat Soul. Kirin also adds a lot to your plays on your opponent's turn, being activatable as early as turn 0, and the payoff for his effect ranging from getting a body on board at the very least, to popping Barong to start your own turn off with a search, to even getting to pop one of your opponent's cards by popping another copy of himself. If you're able to get Garunix into hand or graveyard before using Kirin's effect, you can even use his effect when he returns to the field to pop another Kirin from deck and pop an opponent's card. His and Arvada's effect to Reborn Fire Kings are great pieces of follow-up to improve your grind game, as is Ponix returning to hand every single turn, and Garunix returning to the field whenever one of your fries... Wait, did I write fries? Oh, that's actually kind of funny. I'm calling fire monsters fries from now on, is destroyed. So although it's hard to set up more than one interruption, the potential for follow-up and recursion is strong enough to make the deck a very playable Salamangreat style mid-range strategy. Mid-range is a real thing, by the way, and it is defined the same way the US legal system defines porn. My dad will like that joke. But where there are strengths to a deck, there of course also come weaknesses. Negating Ponix can be a death sentence since losing access to Sanctuary cuts you off from both the consistency provided by Island and the only guaranteed interruption from the deck's one-card combos in Eternity. The only way to play through Ash or Imperm stopping your Ponix is to just draw the Sanctuary. The deck does have tools to play around these interactions though. If you start with the Abelstar, you can spare the normal and Arvada, who can pop Ponix to blank Ash. Against Imperm, you can pop Ponix with Kirin or even Skyburn to dodge the negate. Still, the massive choke point of Ponyx leaves you with a lot of room to be stopped. Also, while Sanctuary has the ability to protect Island, which is nice for avoiding its Eternal Soul effect, it doesn't have any protection of its own, so anything from a Cosmic to a Ghost Ogre can stop your board. But then we come to the biggest issue. Destroying all monsters on the field is just okay. For one thing, the timing of only when your opponent's special summons is pretty limiting and forces some pretty tough decisions to get max value out of the board wipe without letting your opponent spiral into a position where it doesn't matter. But also their main disruption being monster destruction is uniquely poorly positioned in a format still swarming with these losers. Navigating the Unchained matchup is possible, but inherently stacked against you. Having scarce access to negation also makes you more vulnerable to board breakers. Losing Sanctuary can be a big issue, as can having your Sacred Garunix banished. Luckily, you do have some natural resistances to board breakers. A lot of your interrupts come from cards that chill in the hand or graveyard, so if you get even lead, you can often just keep the Sanctuary and still have Kieran in hand and Garunix and Arvada in graveyard, leaving you with pretty much everything anyway. In the OCG, this deck had a pretty respectable showing on release, but didn't really hit its stride until after the October ban list took effect and Phantom Nightmare released, putting Fire King in a much more favorable position with less bad matchups and more unique extra deck plays that took the deck all the way to first place at YCSJ Nagoya. So while the deck might not be the strongest option available for the time being, it might not be a bad idea to start learning the deck now in preparation. Like most structure decks before, it's even a good option for budget players since most of the price of the full power build is centralized in you and the Diabellstar package, which you can even forego by including a small Dogmatica package instead, since you can go Nadir, send Garua, search Maximus, banish the Garua for Maximus, Maximus mill Shurag, and Shurag effect search the level 1 Ponyx. In doing so, you can even set up Fossil Warrior Skull Knight engrave to pop one of your opponent's monsters at will. If you want to give a shot to a new potential competitive deck for cheap, this might be your best option for consistency instead of Diabellstar. But more importantly for our broke boy friends, the deck is quite playable with just 3 structure decks. For $30, you get all the deck's main engine pieces, some hand traps like Droll and Imperm, some good going second cards like Doggeron and Alpha, and some powerful trap cards like Torrential and Solemn Judgment that, maybe are the first things to get cut once you start building up towards a more competitive build, but are definitely good options to give you stronger turn 1s. It even has a fairly comprehensive extra deck, with Eternity as your main interruption and board breaker, Diamond Direwolf is a solid catch-all removal tool that has some internal synergies, Giant Trainer if you find yourself with a bunch of 8s on board but for some reason can't kill, and Heated to steal useful bodies in the mirror or matchups like Rescue Ace. It's not quite as comprehensive as Trap Tricks, but there's a solid starting point for breaking into the competitive scene. If you're new to this game, you can learn many of the intricacies of high-level play that we've come to love just by following the chicken.
I know where Osama bin Laden is today. I know the cure for SARS today. I know many, many things of this world that other people don't recognize, don't understand, and don't know. Simply because I follow the chicken.
Thank you for 5,000 subscribers. As most of you guys' surrogate father figure, I feel the need to tell you I'm proud of you for helping me accomplish this. But also next year make it 10,000. Wasted all my gratitude on Thanksgiving, now get back to work watching the video over and over so I can afford milk. Thank you to my patrons, and to those of you who don't watch Deck Check, I'll see you all in the new year. But also come to the Christmas stream. My family doesn't like me, so I'm streaming on Christmas.